Hi there! Welcome to History in Retrograde. This is the podcast where we use the ancient art of astrology to help us better understand the past. I'm your co-host, Chandler O'Quinn, and joining me live via satellite is my mom. Hi, Mom!
Hello, Chandler. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Are you ready to begin another grand experiment?
I am. I am always ready to go on another adventure with you.
All right, let's give it a whirl.
All right. And I just want to say, before we get started, happy spring, everyone. It's so exciting that it's spring. I know in some places it's probably still snowy, but I have to tell you, just visualize for 1 second a beautiful ocean with beautiful trees and palm trees in front of it, because that's what I'm looking out my window right now, and it is amazing. Please come join me and enjoy the view.
Yes, everyone, in your imaginations, picture a lovely coastline with dolphins and, people paragliding, all over the bay. It is a lovely view that Mom has. And then the rest of us can have it in our imagination.
You can also come visit.
Yes. To everyone around the world, if you have not seen the beauty of the coastal bend of Texas, then I encourage you all to do so. It is certainly one of the jewels of this great planet of ours. Thank you to all the people who are returning. We love to hear from you guys and love all of the support that you've given us. And for those of you, if this is your first episode of History in Retrograde, welcome. The way that we do things here is that in a moment, I will give the data necessary to create an astrological birth chart to my mother. Now, this will be the data of a random historical figure. Now, I know who it is because I've selected this person, and you know it, dear listener, because it is in the title of today's episode. But Mom has no idea who this person could be. So, in a moment, I will give her the mystery history guess birth date, time, and location. She will then input that into the BAT computer, and out will come the astrological birth chart, where all of the planets, moons, and stars were at the moment that person was born. She will then do her best to give a blind reading of this chart, telling us what she can about this person's personality traits, characteristics, fortunes of our random historical figure. I will then reveal to her who our mystery history guest is, give a little background about the person, and then together we will conclude the episode by figuring out how accurate the chart was and predicting what that person would do. So without any further ado, let us begin.
All right.
This is a female.
All right.
Born on the 17th of August, 1892.
Ooh. All right. Do we have a time?
We do.
I'm so excited.
10:30 p.m.
This is very exciting. All right. And location?
The United States.
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, New York. So again, this is a female born August 17th, 1892 at 10:30 p.m. in Brooklyn, New York.
This chart just made every hair on my body stand up. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is amazing. Well, this is a splash chart for real. This person would have been a force to be reckoned with. First of all, let's just start with the planets, okay? This person has Sun at 25 degrees Leo, Moon at 2 degrees Cancer, Mercury at 9 degrees Virgo, Venus at 14 degrees Cancer, Mars at 8 degrees Aquarius, Jupiter at 24 degrees Aries, Saturn at 28 degrees Virgo, Uranus at 2 degrees Scorpio, Neptune at 11 degrees Gemini, Pluto at 9 degrees Gemini, North Node at 11 degrees Taurus, and Chiron at 23 degrees Leo. So, okay. Where do I want to start here? Let's go to this North Node. All right, so here this person has North Node in Taurus in the 12th house. Very interesting the way these charts are laid out, Chandler. Look at that.
Uh-huh.
That is very interesting. Okay, so clearly this person, since they have such a wide orb in their 12th and 6th houses, I mean, it's really very wide, because in the 12th house we have Aries and Taurus, both in the 12th house. So in that 12th house, we have North Node and Taurus, but we also have Jupiter in Aries. So here we have this fire of Jupiter pushing this North Node, this direction. And North Node and Taurus in the 12th house would be karma with Venusian things. Karma, you have to, the direction has to do with career and material things, but in a very interesting karmic way. Almost like this person came in to this life saying, you know what I want to do this time? I just want to be a really huge career person. And the universe went, okay, we're going to go ahead and put your North Node in the 12th house in Taurus. So have at it. And so that's kind of what that feels like. Then this person has Pluto conjunct Neptune in the first house. Now, Pluto in the first house, and it's in Gemini. Okay. Exactly conjunct, not by exact degree, but Pluto is 9 degrees Gemini and Neptune is 11 degrees Gemini. So Gemini on the first house, I mean, even though this person, see how it changes right here to Gemini, and we still have Taurus in the first house, and this person has Taurus as their ascendant, right? 25 degrees Taurus on their first house cusp. They have Pluto and Neptune in Gemini in this first house. So with what we know about Gemini, we know that this person must have been a communicator, a powerful communicator, a creative communicator, and possibly really funny. Like this person possibly could have been amusing and enjoyed amusing people and telling stories and quips and things like that. Now, this person has Moon in Cancer in the second house. Okay, so Moon in Cancer would have also made this person really nurturing and loved to mother people and liked nurturing things. Like they would have liked really comfortable things around them for material things. Then this person has Venus in the third house. Venus in Cancer in the third house. So Venus in the third house would also make this person very, they would have loved writing. They would have loved communicating, because third house is ruled by Gemini. So they would have loved, because it's Venus, right? And also in Cancer, very nurturing, communicating in a nurturing way with love. Also, this is early childhood, early school, elementary school. It represents siblings. So maybe would have really loved a sibling or siblings. Then we have fourth house cusp in Leo, with Chiron at 23 degrees and Sun at 25 degrees. So they are conjunct by degree, not exactly by degree, but within 2 degrees of each other, in Leo in the 4th house. So this person would have been very much an entertainer, or like to entertain in their home or in their community. Somehow they're entertaining or they're leading in their hometown, but I don't know why, but I don't know. This person's chart seems like it would be very show busy. I don't know. I mean, whatever they're doing it in a big way in their home, because their Sun and Chiron are both there. Now, Chiron conjunct Sun could have some issues with the father in early life, something about maybe the father and home, because they have Chiron in the 4th house. So maybe they moved around a lot, or maybe they didn't have a good childhood home, or something about that then makes them, if they're on the right track, because Chiron is the wounded healer, makes them want to heal people by using their home, by using their community, by using their, their environment. Then 5th house is 5th house. We have Mercury at 9 degrees Virgo, all right? And we have Saturn at 28 degrees Virgo in the 5th house. So again, communication, big communication in Virgo, but with Saturn there. So also lessons and organization and preciseness regarding 5th house issues, 5th house show business, 5th house entertainment, 5th house leadership, 5th house romance. All of these things that are ruled by the Sun, because Leo rules the 5th house. So there are lessons involved there with this communication, but it's Mercury in Virgo and Saturn in Virgo. And as we know, Virgos are the most precise. They're all about precision. They can be about technical issues, work in the 5th house. Then their 6th house cusp is Libra, and they have Uranus in the 6th house. So Uranus, but their Uranus is in Scorpio, because you see here how this 6th house and this 12th house have such a wide arc. So we have Libra and Scorpio big time in both, in the 6th house, and we have Aries and Taurus big time in the 12th house. So in this situation, this person with Uranus in Scorpio in the 6th house, that's going to put, because Uranus is ruled by Aquarius, which is very futuristic, technological, space age, humanitarian. Uranus, though, in Scorpio is going to have there's going to be some appeal with Scorpio things. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, so it could be, there could be some interest in taboo things or supernatural things or psychic abilities or sexual preferences and all this kind of thing, somehow having to do with their work, because it's 6th house, so it's work. They don't have anything in their 7th house, but their 7th house cusp is still Scorpio. Then they have Sag here. Their 8th house is still Sag. 9th house is Capricorn. 10th house is Aquarius, and their Mars is in the 10th house. And their midheaven, it is literally conjunct. See, they have midheaven at 3 degrees Aquarius, and they have Mars at 8 degrees Aquarius. This is, again, about the career. And having, oh man, again, this person could have been very, very funny or different or quirky. They have Mars in Aquarius, which makes them unique. It makes them, it could make them technological. It could definitely make them before their time. It could make them very humanitarian. I mean, on a very normal scale, not artistic. Their direction could be that they want to help humanity, because it's Mars, your passion, and how, Mars rules like your passion, how you express your anger, how you express yourself sexually, how you express any passion, anything you're passionate about. They have it in Aquarius, which is, being unique, being different, being before their time. And then they have 11th house is Pisces. They don't have anything in the 11th house, but the 11th house ruled by Pisces would give you an idea of how they relate to the public, to groups of people, and they would relate to groups of people and the public in a very creative way, almost capable of creating illusion, because Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Neptune rules illusion. On the dark side, it could be very manipulative. You never know what you're doing in. And really dark, it could be alcoholism, drug abuse, and mental illness. So is any of this making any sense?
Yeah. I mean, there are bits and pieces here that are making sense. I think that there's maybe some things that people may not associate with this person, but yeah, I mean, there's some stuff here.
Okay, so I've gone through all of the planets and their houses. Do you have any questions?
Yes. How would men see her?
Well, this person does have Taurus rising. So whenever you have Taurus or Libra rising, that is ruled by Venus, which can be very beautiful. All right. But a Taurus rising person is going to be pretty stubborn. Like, they might be very cordial. They might be very beautiful. They could also be very Viking-like, very strong. Okay, but they do have Neptune conjunct Pluto in Gemini in the first house, which could also make them very, very, very gregarious and talkative and flirty, very flirty. So any of those things would apply here.
Well, I think there'd be a lot of people out there surprised that this person was flirty, but yeah. How would she prefer the company of men or women?
Well, it depends. Because if she's heterosexual, then she would prefer the company of very unique men. Now, if she is homosexual, then because her Mars is in Aries, that would not be surprising, because it would be a more unique or interesting way of expressing yourself. But I think that you did ask me what kind of men she would like, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This was a person who preferred the company, preferred being around one gender over the other. So I was just trying to see if there's anything in this chart that would indicate that.
Well, I mean, because she has Mars, which is our planet, a heterosexual woman, you look at their Mars to see what kind of men they like. And so if she were to like men, she would like very unique men. But if it is a homosexual woman, then you could also look at the Mars and go, okay, well, that makes sense, because it's Uranus, right? So it's open, it's open-minded, So there's that. And then her moon is in Cancer. So having moon in Cancer would make you very connected to your feminine side and very connected to women. She also has Venus in Cancer, which would also make her very connected to women. So as far as women are concerned, this could make her very connected to women with her moon and her Venus conjunct in Cancer, whether it be mothers, sisters, friends, or lovers. But in this situation where her Mars is in Aquarius, she would want a very unique man, a man that was unusual, not your average Joe.
Okay.
And I also want to say about this first house, how people would perceive her. She does have Pluto conjunct Neptune in Gemini in the first house, and Pluto is power. So she could be considered very powerful, but also elusive because it's Neptune. So it is illusion. So she could also see, when you have Neptune in the first house, it can make you very psychic, but it can make you a really amazing actor because you have the power to literally pull the veil down and become whatever character you want. And with Pluto there, it would be a very powerful ability to do that. So maybe.
Okay. Can you tell me anything about the relationships with the mother and the father?
Well, I would say that the father, see, because we have Chiron literally conjunct the sun, right, in Leo. So I would say, because you look to the sun for the father, and here we have this in the fourth house, the home. So there would have been some issue, I would think, with either the home or the father or all of the above. The father, the home, everything. And in Leo, which is, it can be the dark side of Leo can have a really, really, really bad temper and they can be cruel, just like the dark side of Aries. I mean, there's cruelty all the way around, right? But in this situation, the dark side would be that. As far as the mother, I see that this moon in the second house, I would assume that having moon in Cancer would give you a fairly loving mother. It should.
What profession do you see this woman going into?
Well, whatever career this woman has, she's very passionate about her career. Okay. She does have these nurturing aspects to herself, with moon in Cancer and Venus in Cancer in the second and third houses. But this Jupiter conjunct, well, it's not conjunct, but North Node in Taurus in Jupiter and Aries in the 12th house, okay, with Uranus in Scorpio in the 6th house and Mars in Aries in the 10th house, I would think her career was very important to her. I would like to think that this person was a performer, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, this woman could be, she's got Mars in Aquarius in the 10th house. She could be out there, leading the troops for women's right to vote. She could be doing anything, but she's definitely not a wallflower.
How is she with finances?
Well, she has moon in the second house in Cancer. So you look to the second house for finances. And when you have moon there, she could have, she could love finances. She could love money. But I just feel like this Venus and moon in Cancer in the second and third houses should make her more nurturing with her finances, like she wants to nurture with them, or she wants to nurture women because it's moon in the second house. But there should be nurturing because it's Cancer, and Cancers do on when they're doing the right thing, when they're being their good light self, they really are very nurturing.
What kind of clothes would she wear?
Well, that's hard to say because she has Pluto and Neptune in Gemini in the first house. So she could dress really out there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she could do things that would be very unusual. And with Neptune in the first house, it can also make her not ever really be the same. Like, she can draw that veil down over her and wear this outfit. Like, today she's dressed like Marie Antoinette. Tomorrow she's going to dress like, whatever, a nun. It could be anything because it's Neptune in the first house. It's how she would communicate her mood for the day, or how people see her. People should have seen her as difficult to pin down. I mean, she does have Taurus on the first house, and that's going to give her all that Taurian strength, right? So she's very strong. But having Pluto and Neptune in the first house is also going to make her, in Gemini, is going to make her fairly unique. It should. And she does not care. She shouldn't care.
How would she decorate a home?
I think her home would be decorated very elaborately. She's got Sun in conjunct Chiron in the fourth house. So I would think that it would be, very Leo-ish, very lavish, interesting, theatrical, probably a lot of gold colors. And definitely entertaining. But it could be, the the downside of that Leo on the fourth house is it would be so much, it would be tacky, right? But the upside would be that she would have excellent taste, and having Sun in the fourth house in Leo, her home would be very, very, very important to her, or her environment, or her her community, wherever she feels, wherever that boundary is outstretched from her that she sees as home, that's very important to her.
Okay. And what is her relationship to the supernatural?
Well, again, we have Neptune in the first house in Gemini. So we go there first. Okay. So she could have, and conjunct Pluto, right? Which is very occult and supernatural in the first house. She could have a very, very, very deep relationship with the supernatural, right? This person could go as far as being a psychic, or being so into it that people thought they were crazy. Okay. They also have Uranus in Scorpio in the sixth house, which can put you into that occult area, and very, and it's in the sixth house, which would be work, right? So it's almost like this person could work as a psychic, or as a medium, or as anything that has to do with, and it's very unusual because having Uranus in the sixth house is going to give you either a very odd way of working, or a unique way of working, or with it being in Scorpio, a supernatural and occult way of working in taboo things, working in it could even be like the dark side of the occult. This person would not have a problem with any of the above, because they have Mars in Aquarius, North Node in the 12th house, which is, karma and coming into this life, and Jupiter. I mean, this person would not have a problem with supernatural things, I would not think.
Okay. How would this woman view herself? Does she? What is her self-confidence like?
Well, I have to say that she can vacillate on that. All right. Because when you have Pluto in the first house, you do change. and you have death and rebirth. And the way that people see you isn't necessarily the way they saw you the last time they saw you. Like, some people are the same their whole life, but people who have Pluto in the first house will definitely be seen differently, like through phases. They go through phases in their life. They're not that person that this is their style, this is what they look like, this is their hair color. You know what I mean? Having Pluto and Neptune in the first house could make this person doubt themselves on occasion, but also having Pluto in the first house could make this person be very, very, very confident and very powerful. So, you know, it's the two sides of a coin, you know. But having Taurus on the first house cusp, I would lean towards more confident.
Mm-hmm. How does this woman relate to sexuality?
Well, I would say if you have Mars in Aquarius, you're kind of open-minded in that area. You are open about it. You know, so her Venus is in Cancer, which would make her, or should make her, more feminine, possibly more demure. If she had like Mars in Virgo or Venus in Capricorn or even Venus in Virgo, I would think that she would be less, you know, that more reserved, right? With more reservation. But Venus in Cancer should be very feminine, very female, you know. But that Mars in Aquarius, it's anybody's guess. You have Mars in Aquarius, you're wide open. You could be whatever. Also, having Jupiter in Aries in the 12th house and North Node in Taurus in the 12th house, there's something about Martian things, okay? So this person has some kind of benevolence and karma with the aspect of Mars. Whether this person benefits from fighting or always wins fights or accomplishes what they're after a little easier than other people might. There's something about that Jupiter in Aries in the 12th house with North Node in the 12th house as well. If they're following their direction. Because North Node is if you choose to follow your direction. Because otherwise you're dealing with South Node, which would be just being a worker.
Is there anything else about this chart that you haven't talked about already?
I find this chart to be very unique and unusual. And I'm not sure that I would necessarily want to be super good friends with this person, but I think I would really be interested to know this person and be maybe not super best friends, because they might be a little too unique for me. They might be too much. I don't know. And that's a lot for me because I'm pretty out there myself, but I am interested to know who this is, because this person could be way, way out there as a person. Or, on the other hand, they could be quite the leader for humanitarian things. And so, I mean, I think if they were, you know, in a situation where they were just weird, you know, just really super weird, I might be entertained, but I think I would want to hang out with them more if they were really fighting for humanitarian causes and they were just unique.
Are we ready for our summary?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing that you said was that there is karma with Venusian things. Career is very important. Career is the direction in life. A powerful, creative, funny communicator. Enjoyed telling stories, quips. Loved to mother people. Comfortable with the material possessions that she had would be comfortable. Loved writing and communicating. Communicating about love. Entertainer. Entertain in a big way at home. There could be issues with the father at home. Organization with show business and romance. There's an interest in taboo things, supernatural, sexuality, and these interests in taboo things is connected to work. She is funny, different, quirky, unique, ahead of her time. Could be a humanitarian. There's a unique expression of passion or sexuality. Relate to public through illusion. There is the possibility for addiction or alcoholism. She would be seen as beautiful, but possibly Viking-like, stubborn. She would be gregarious, flirty, talkative. Prefer the company of a unique man. A very powerful and possibly elusive, psychic. A very good actor. The father may have had a bad temper. The mother was very loving. Very passionate about the career. Could be a performer. Not a wallflower. She might love finances. Would be good with money. She would be using the money to nurture people. She would dress out there. Would be unusual. The clothes are used to communicate. She'd be difficult to pin down. She is strong. She is unique. She does not care about what others think of her. Very elegant home, lavish, dramatic, lots of gold. Some might say it might get too much, might be tacky. There is a very extravagant taste. There's a deep relationship with the supernatural. She could be psychic. She might be into it a little bit too much. People might think that she's crazy. There is a relationship possibly to the occult. In any case, she has no problems with the supernatural. She would be seen to go through phases in life. The way you see her one day might not be the way you see her several years later. She could be very, very, very confident. But might struggle with times of doubt every once in a while. She would be sexually open-minded. Could be whatever. There is a benevolence, a karma with Mars-like things. Maybe she often wins fights. She could be too unique. She could be too much. She could be way, way out there. Did I leave anything out?
No, I just want to clarify that. When I'm talking about the first house and I say, that this person could be very, very confident, and then on the other hand have moments of doubt. I mean, we can all be like that. So sometimes I just think that when I move back and forth between the two sides of each sign and the planets that they're in, it just sounds like I'm kind of being wishy-washy. But a lot of times people who appear very confident can also be and believe they're very confident, and then also, have a moment where they're normally very confident, but then if they have a transit or something to their first house and it kicks their butt, then there is a moment where they question things and they have to, get back on the bicycle and ride it again. So, I just don't want it to seem like I'm being too wishy-washy, but just that. Okay.
Would you like to know whose chart you've been reading?
I would, yes.
This is the astrological birth chart of Mamie Eisenhower.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Oh, wait, just a second. I do keep a pretty good eye on the calendar and when our episodes will be published. And this episode is published on April 1st. And I would like to say that I have played a little April Fool's joke on all of our listeners.
What?
This is actually the astrological birth chart of Mae West.
Oh my gosh! Oh, I love her! I love her so much. Oh, this makes perfect sense. Oh my. Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, this makes a lot of sense. Now I was like, okay, maybe Eisenhower. Oh, okay. No. Yeah. Mae West, Mars in the 10th house. Oh my God. She literally blazed the trail for making sexuality a career. I mean, oh my gosh, yes. This is amazing. Tell me more.
So, for those of you who do not know, Mae West was one of the biggest stars in the world in the 1930s, and really broke down the barriers on showing that women could enjoy their sexuality. And through her performances in film, she really you can trace a line from Mae West to Marilyn Monroe, Raquel Welch, Madonna, Rihanna. All the people who are around today owe something to Mae West in breaking down these barriers. So Mae West was born Mary Jane West in August of 1893 in Brooklyn. She was the daughter of Matilda and John Battling Jack West. Her father, John, he ran stables in a sort of unpleasant part of town. But back in the 1890s, you still needed horses to get you around New York. Not everyone had an automobile, even going into the middle of the early 1900s. So he was running this company of horses and horse-drawn carriages. He was named Battling Jack because he used to be a fighter. He was a prize fighter, a boxer. And he often liked to visit the gym where he trained, and he would work out there every once in a while. And he would take young Mary Jane to the gym. And this is where she credits her fascination with muscle men. As a very young child, she liked looking at the physiques of these young men working out in the gym. But her mother, Matilda, didn't really like that she was going to the gym, and instead wanted to put her on the stage. And so at the age of 5, she started doing shows for the local church, and pretty quickly her mother put her onto vaudeville stages. Her original title was as Baby May. And as she says, she did not want it to be spelled M-A-Y, because Y ends by going down. And so she did M-A-E, because the E would be going up, and she was always going to be going up. So she started working in these vaudeville houses at the age of 5. By the age of 7, she was doing performances. She was doing these contests. She would have, they would give her the lyrics to the song that she was going to sing that night an hour or two before she was going to go on stage. And at the age of 7, she was already going through the lyrics and completely trashing them and writing her own lyrics to these songs and adding additional lyrics, and everyone loved what she had done. So already at the age of 7, she is showing this her keen eye for show business and wanting to write things herself. So she continued going on through early adolescent years, playing in these vaudeville houses. She would play in these places all over New York and got influences from all these different places. So in the vaudeville houses, there would be these acts of female impersonators. So men who would dress up as women and do a show, much like what we might think of a drag queen show today. And she saw the laughs that these men were getting portraying these women, and that had a profound impact on how she was going to develop a character. She would also see how other female dancers were dancing and how they were performing, and she would take little bits of how they moved their bodies and add that into her mental repertoire. She would also go into the jazz clubs and see how the African Americans there in Harlem were dancing, and this is actually one of the ways that she first became famous. She was working in 1918, and she was first became known in New York as the Shimmy Girl, because she learned the shimmy dance that the African Americans were doing, and this was a dance in which you stood and then shook your whole body around. And anyone who's seen Mae West knows that she had a lot to shake. It was pandemonium, and the producers wanted to label her as the Shimmy Girl and take her across the country. And she said, "I don't want to be known for a dance. Dances don't last." So she could have hit a spotlight right then, but knew that there was a larger career at hand. She kept doing this work on the vaudeville stage. She would go to Broadway a couple of times. And all during this time, she is creating this character of Mae West. And she is writing her own works. So all of these plays, she is writing herself, writing all of the lines and essentially producing these things herself. In 1926, she made a show and gave it the title of simply a three-letter word: sex. She titled the play Sex, and in 1926 in New York, that was a pretty risque thing to do. Yes. So risque that she was arrested.
Oh, no!
And she was sentenced to 10 days in jail. In her memoirs, she wrote that she got to keep her own underwear. So she kept wearing her silk underwear while the other lady prisoners had to wear burlap.
Oh, my.
And that she had dinner with the warden every night.
Ooh, I bet she did.
And she got off after 8 days for good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So she continued writing and producing and directing all of these plays on Broadway, and eventually Hollywood came calling. In the late 1920s and 29 and 30, the talkies had come out. And now all of these silent stars, a lot of them could not make the transition into talking pictures. So Hollywood came to Broadway to see people who actually knew how to talk in front of an audience to get them to come to Hollywood. In 1932, she signed a contract with Paramount Studios, which was one of the fledgling studios in Hollywood at the time. It was nearly going bankrupt all of the time. And she was given fourth billing in a movie called Night After Night. She was given the script, she was fourth billing, and she decided that she was going to completely rewrite the script. And one of her co-stars, in fact, the man who wanted her to come to Hollywood for this movie, his name was George Raft, said that she stole everything but the cameras. There were some actresses who were in the middle of a scene with her, and after the scene was finished, were so upset because she had completely stolen the scene. This was the last time Mae West ever got fourth billing. She would be top billed for all of the rest of her pictures. This is the scene. This is the movie where, and she actually titled her autobiography after this scene, where she comes in wearing diamonds all over her neck and ears and wrists, and she checks her coat, and the coat girl goes, "Goodness, look at those diamonds," and Mae West goes, "Goodness had nothing to do with it, dearie." Now, by 1933, Mae West was 40 years old. She had not made her first motion picture. She became a motion picture star at the age of 40.
Yes.
Which is phenomenal. Most of the time in Hollywood, even to this very day, if you are a 40-year-old woman, you are no longer allowed to make motion pictures.
Right.
But Mae West started her film career at the age of 40. She brought one of the biggest successes that she had on Broadway to the motion pictures. This was a play that was called Diamond Lil, and it was set in the 1890s. And she was sort of able to get away with showing more risque aspects of sexuality by putting these things in the Old West or in the 1890s. I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about things that happened 30, 40 years ago. Diamond Lil is where she came up with the tagline it has followed her forever. It has been in cartoons. It is even in the Country Bears Jamboree at Walt Disney World, where Mae West says, "Come up and see me sometime." So she brought that to the motion picture screen. They retitled the play to She Done Him Wrong. And she needed a leading man for this. And they are at the Paramount Studios, and she's getting in the car with the head of the studio, Mr. Zucker. And they're driving in the car, and they see this man walking across the street on the studio lot. And she says, "Stop the car." And they stop the car, and she says, "Who is that?" And Zucker says, "Oh, he's some two-bit player. He's some Cockney guy. We're about to fire him." Mm-hmm. And she goes, "Well, can he talk?" and she goes, "Well, if he can talk, I want him in the picture." And that man was Cary Grant.
Yes.
So she discovered Cary Grant. She put Cary Grant in the pictures and made him a star.
Yep.
So if you like any Cary Grant movie, you owe something to Mae West. This movie, She Done Him Wrong, was actually nominated for Best Picture. And this was a movie completely written, produced. I don't think she directed the movie, but she did direct it when it was on the stage. So this was all her. And it made over $2 million back then money, which is like over $300 million today. This movie single-handedly saved Paramount Studios. So it was going bankrupt, and this movie is what put Paramount back on top again. It was time to renegotiate the contract. And they asked her, "Well, what kind of salary do you want to make?" And she goes, "Well, how much is Mr. Zucker being paid?" And they said, "Well, he's being paid $200,000. She goes, "Well, I want to be paid $201,000. She became the highest grossing or the highest paid woman in America. And she became the second highest paid person in America. During her time at Paramount Studios. She was set up in the Ravenswood Apartments. That's where she would live in Los Angeles. And she lived there starting in the early 30s and through until the rest of her life. She had the top penthouse there and had it completely decorated. It was all white. And all Louis the 16th furniture, gold and baby grand pianos.
Yes.
She had nude statues of herself.
Oh.
And at one point in the 1960s, much later on, they did a television interview with her in these apartments, and they looked in the bedroom, and there was a mirror over the bed. And they asked her, "Why is there a mirror over the bed?" And she said, "Well, I like to see how I'm doing." So that interview was never aired on television. It's interesting. I did a lot of research for this on Mae West and looked at a lot of documentaries, and I saw this one documentary, and it had Robert Osborne in it, and I don't know if anyone out there might remember him. He used to do all of the Turner Classic Movies. He would open and close the movies and talk about... He was a great Hollywood historian. And he was talking about the appeal of Mae West, and I have to say, I think he got it wrong. He was talking about how she got away with saying all of these things because people didn't associate the way that she looked with being desirable, that she didn't have the prettiest face, she didn't have the best body. And so she was able to get away with saying all of these things. And I don't rightly agree with that. I would say that she had an energy, and the energy and the way that she was saying things, you could put that into any vessel, and the energy is what gets you excited. The sexuality is transmitted through the energy, through the light within her. It really didn't have a lot to do with necessarily the exact face and the exact body that she was in. What is really interesting is that she completely changed beauty standards in America in the 1930s. Prior to her, in the 20s and getting into the early 30s, women's standard of beauty was almost androgynous. It was about people like Marlene Dietrich and Greta Garbo, who were, rail-like, and the flapper dresses were very loose, and but she brought back this hourglass figure. She brought back how to accentuate the bosom and the hips and everything, which was completely different from how things had been, but is how women would want to be going into the 40s and 50s, was to not be like the 20s and early 30s androgynous-like, but following in the direction of Mae West. She would actually go in and have the costume designers make the seams as tight as possible to hug up against her top and her hips. And she would always place her fingers on the seam so as to better accentuate everything. She was extremely cognizant of how she looked. She would be able to go onto set and know by the warmth of the light if the light was hitting her correctly. And so if the light wasn't, she could just tell from the warmth of it hitting her, you're going to need to move that light, and you're going to need to turn this one on over here so that I'm lit the best. So her time at Paramount Studios was only 6 years. And this is really where we get most of these movies. By the mid-1930s, she started getting into real trouble with the censors. Censorship really came in force in around 34, and then really just cracked down even harder from there. So the Hays Code comes in, and this was a self-inflicted code. The Hollywood wanted to make sure that it would regulate itself so that the government wouldn't do it. And so they put in all sorts of things like, if you had two people on a bed, there had to be 3 legs on the floor. So only one leg could actually be on the bed. And you can see this in, the 50s sitcoms with Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore would have to sleep in 2 twin beds. It had long-lasting ramifications. Well, the stuff that Mae West was putting out there was not going to get by the censors. She actually would write the scripts with having the most lewd things in there,
Mm-hmm.
hoping that they would go after those so that she could get in what she actually wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked for a little bit, but by 1938, they had gotten enough control to where they could just take out entire minutes out of films. And once they did that one too many times, and one of her films completely flopped. By 38, she was actually listed in the box office poison list.
Oh, no.
So Mae West was box office poison, along with Katharine Hepburn and Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich,
Mm-hmm.
all these people who we remember them a lot more than we remember whoever wrote that article.
Mm-hmm.
She was only 5 foot. And
Wow.
so she would wear 9-inch heels.
Oh my gosh.
And that is why she walked like she did. Because she was walking on 9-inch heels.
Oh my goodness.
Earlier, before her time in Hollywood, her mother passed away in 1930. And this was one of the biggest things in her life.
Mm-hmm.
She had to be held by her lawyer and her father when she saw her dying, or her dead mother, and she just said that she howled for hours. It is at this time that she really starts to be interested in the supernatural.
Oh.
From the time of 1930 until the time of her passing, she would hold weekly seances to try and communicate with her mother. She was intensely interested in ESP, in telekinesis, in spiritualism, in all of these aspects of the supernatural. So after her failure at Paramount, she left the studios, which she had pretty much single-handedly brought back from the brink. And the first movie that she did was in 1940. It was with Universal, and it is My Little Chickadee, where her co-star is W.C. Fields. These are two that are fantastic together. But she did not like working with W.C. Fields. She was being a character. She was Mae West, but she was the consummate professional. W.C. Fields was W.C. Fields.
Yes.
He was a drunk and a layabout. She had it in her contract to where if he showed up drunk, he would be taken away from the set and made to sober up before he would work with her. She did not enjoy working with him at all, but we're all very glad that she did, because the two of them are fantastic together. Going into World War II and afterwards, her career started to go away for a little bit. She was no longer the big star that she once was. She was also getting into her late 50s. And at this time, she decided to go back to Broadway. And she was a great big success back on Broadway. She redid Diamond Lil, her big number, her big show from the 1930s, and then she toured the country with it, and she went to London and toured London with it. It was on Broadway again. It was all over the place. And then she did other shows, which she completely wrote, produced, directed, and she was getting into her 50s and 60s. Eventually, she completely rethought of how to do a Vegas show. And so she went to Las Vegas. And she knew that she would be able to get the men in, but she wanted to make sure that women would come too. So along with her, well, all the other guys had showgirls. So she decided that she would have show guys.
Yes.
And so she would have all of the Mr. America, all of the bodybuilders come in and do lavish show numbers with her. Again, completely flipping sexuality on its head.
Yes.
That she was the one being surrounded by all of these men who were adoring her. She her last film she made in 1978. She was 85 years old.
Yes.
It was Sextet. Another one which she had completely written and produced, where the men who are going after her include Ringo Starr, Alice Cooper, Timothy Dalton. And it was a tremendous failure. It did not make any money. But she got into the car after seeing the premiere, and she looked out the window for a long time, and she looked to one of her producing friends and said, "That was yesterday. And now we're going to talk about tomorrow."
Yes.
And then and that was her outlook on life, her entire life. And she lived until 1980, when she passed away after suffering from a stroke. She had spent 80 years in show business. No one had a career like her. And the fact that she was not even on film until she was in her 40s is another staggering thing. She fundamentally transformed how we talked about sexuality, what a liberated woman could look like, and truly a fascinating human being.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, this makes so much more sense now. I understand what's happening. I can explain more things to you. First of all, I love Mae West. When I was a little girl, my mother used to ask me to do impersonations, and one of the impersonations I could do really well was Mae West, which was probably not one of the best impersonations I should have done when I was like 7, but I loved her. I loved her so much. In fact, I helped your sister write a report on her I brought it to her attention, and she did all the research on Mae West. Now, I did not know the part about her being into the occult, but there's a couple of things I want to address. One, I think that average men like curvy women. I don't think average men like stick-thin women. I think they really like some curves. 2, Mae West knew how to use every one of those curves, and she decorated them unbelievably so. I mean, her costumes were amazing. 3, I think she was literally beautiful. I do not think that there was anything other than beauty about her. You look at Mae West, I think Mae West is beautiful. She also had that iconic platinum hair and the red lips, and the makeup and the costumes and everything was so feminine, which is also that moon in Cancer and Venus in Cancer that we were talking about. She was extremely feminine. She was the epitome of a strong woman, right? And she knew where, pardon me, she knew where her character's power resided. Sorry, Chandler, talk for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what Robert Osborne was thinking when he was wearing this very 90s cardigan talking to us about this. But I would say that her energy is more prevalent than anything physical, that it is about the charisma more than anything is what is attractive about her.
Well, that is true, but I mean, at that same time, if you see pictures of her when I think she's very beautiful. Yeah, but yeah. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Because honestly, Mae West looks like women in our family. The women in the matriarchal side of our family resemble her. All right. We have platinum blondes in our family. We have curvaceous women in our family. There's something that I think that so many people, males, females, everyone, admire in Mae West. Now, I do want to point out, at one point I said, okay, this Gemini, this Pluto and Neptune and Gemini, she could be very funny. Mae West was hilarious.
Yes.
She was full on brilliantly hilarious. And So I also want to address this Jupiter in Aries. Now, many times people associate Aries with war and warriors and fighting, but Aries is probably the most sexual of all of the signs, because where you'll see like Scorpio is seductive, right? And you always think, oh well, Scorpio is the sexual one, but Aries has no qualms about just going straight to the point, straight to the sexuality, straight to the animal magnetism, I guess. And she had Jupiter in Aries in the 12th house with her north node in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus in the 12th house. If anybody was made for this, it was her. This is exactly who she is. And it was her karma to be this, almost like to blaze this trail. 10th house, Midhaven in Aquarius with Mars in Aquarius. She blazed the trail. She was the trendsetter. She was the person who broke the barriers and came through with this Mars, which is ruled by Aries, right? I mean, yes, her planet Mars is in Aquarius. Sometimes I get lost in my thought, but then in Aquarius, unusual sexual behavior, right? Unusual, unique, not. I mean, everything she didn't do anything that was weird or you know, like perverted. What she was doing was showing a woman who enjoyed sex, and all women are supposed to be demure and, you know, ladylike and all these things. But I think that her animal magnetism and her ability, I mean, the woman never stopped moving. She was constantly moving the entire time you ever saw her. And like her motor was running. But also now we're going to go to the 5th house, right? 5th house is show business, correct? She has Virgo on the 5th house, business, work, right? Mercury and Saturn, lessons, learning, business, and work in the 5th house, show business. And then we come around to that Uranus in Scorpio in the 6th house, which gave her, you know, that unfortunate need and drive to do everything she could to try to reach the other side. So there was that aspect to her. But also, I would be interested to know about this Chiron conjunct Sun in the 4th house. But also, everything that you described about her home is very, very 4th house in Leo, you know, I mean, over the top, just full on over the top. So I feel very confident about this. I honestly thought we were either discussing like, I thought we were either discussing like Fanny Bryce or we were discussing Ms. Winchester. I didn't know who we were dealing with here. But I'm really glad it was Mae West. Excellent choice, Chandler. And considering that, you know, we are in Women's History Month, I think that people should really pay attention to women like Mae West. And I know this is coming out on April Fool's, and I find this whole scenario very interesting. But Mae West should be at the top of the list of women's history because she was an extremely amazing businesswoman and creator and auteur and just, you know, everything. I love her.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely. She should be up there with all of the great women that we talk about during Women's History Month and outside of Women's History Month. She is a great woman, a great American, and that's why I figured she'd be a good choice to do.
Well, it's an excellent choice, Chandler. I'm very proud of you. This is very good.
On our scale of right on the money to way out in outer space, I would say this would be way out in outer space for Mamie Eisenhower, but right on the money for Mae West. That concludes this episode of History in Retrograde. We'd like to thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support the show, we are available on socials. We have all the links to those in the description of the podcast. We also have a link there to our PayPal account. If you're feeling extra generous, any little amount helps us in producing a better quality show for you. And as always, in conclusion, as long as your houses are in order and the stars are aligned, everything will be just fine.
That's right. Everything is going to be just fine. And I want to say thank you so much to all of you who are listening. And I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. And I thank you so much for sharing the links for the show and contacting us and letting us know how you like it. It's really wonderful when we hear from you. And it's spring. Go outside. Get into nature. Kiss a butterfly. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Make sure you know what kind of butterfly you're kissing. We don't want you to get any kind of sickness or illness or anything. But yes, frolic about. Enjoy your spring. Thank you so very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Salal Creek Studios.